This is a map of Australia, the seventh and the oldest, flattest and driest inhabited continent on planet Earth. This mega-diverse part of the world is a vibrant combination of landscapes and climates. You might have noticed that the central parts of the map are yellower. That's because the center of Australia is mainly desert, but taking a closer look, you will realize that there are lush green rainforests in the northeast and mountain ranges in the southeastern part. Great Britain claimed Australia's eastern half in the 1770s, but this land has been home to the indigenous Australians for around 65,000 years. Surrounded by the Indian and Pacific Oceans, Australia is the sixth largest country in the world by total area. Because of its massive size and isolation from the rest of the world, it has been labeled the island continent and is sometimes regarded as the world's largest island. This incredibly diverse terrain is home to some of the most ancient and extraordinary cultures, flora and fauna. It holds many scientific, biological and archaeological secrets. Recent discoveries made in Australia have baffled scientists as well as historians all around the globe. From thousands of years-old murder mysteries to a natural glow in the dark tunnel, all sorts of unfathomable things have been found in the land of kangaroos. And in this video, we'll be telling you all about these discoveries and more. Number 1. Carcacucha, the ancient murder victim. This murder mystery made headlines back in the year 2014 when William Bates found a skeleton by a river. Bates was an elder of the Barkantji people of New South Wales, and from his years of wisdom, he was able to identify the skeleton as an Aboriginal male. Signs of violence were visible on the bones. Whenever dead remains are found, the first thing detectives and forensic specialists do is establish the time of death. Initially, it was assumed that this man had been killed during the bloodshed between the indigenous people and the British colonizers between the 18th and 19th centuries. But when Dr. Michael Westway, a paleoanthropologist from Griffith University, Queensland, examined the body, more information came to light. According to Westway, the remains were of a man that a lot of people cared for. He concluded this from the way the head was tenderly placed on a cushion of sand in the burial. The long wound on his skull seemed to be from a cutlass blade that was used by the British militia, but they were way off. After lab analysis, it was revealed that the Aboriginal man had been killed in the 13th century, hundreds of years before the British arrived in Australia and introduced metal objects. So if it wasn't a metallic weapon, then what killed this man, now famous as Carcacucha, which means older brother? According to one theory, the fatal injury resulted from Lil, a sharpened club. But Westway has pointed towards an iconic Aboriginal symbol, the boomerang, a long sharp-edged weapon most probably wielded by Carcacucha's enemy. The discovery supports the theory of intertribal conflict. Another proof is the series of rock paintings found where Carcacucha's body was recovered. These depict two tribes in different colors wielding shields, boomerangs, and clubs. Scientists have now established that Carcacucha died from a fatal blow to the head around 800 years ago. These bones provide shocking insight into life, death, and tribal turmoil in pre-colonial Australia. 2. The oldest axe in known history. In the remote Kimberley region of Western Australia, a piece of the world's oldest axe has been unearthed by Australian archaeologists. This axe fragment is merely the size of a thumbnail, but this tiny piece has been a game-changer in the field of archaeology. It dates back to the Stone Age period of 45,000 to 49,000 years ago. This is the same time around which humans arrived on this continent. This is around 10 millennia earlier than any previous ground-edge axe discovery. According to Professor Peter Hiscock from the University of Sydney, this axe reveals that the first Australians were technological innovators. This fragment was originally excavated in the early 1990s by Professor Sue O'Connor of the Australian National University, among a sequence of tools, artwork, food scraps, and other artifacts. These were found at Carpenter's Gap, a large rock shelter known for being one of the first sites occupied by modern humans. Professor O'Connor stated that an axe that old hasn't been found anywhere in the world previously. The oldest axes from Japan appear to be 35,000 years old, and in most other countries, these arrived with agriculture around 10,000 years ago. New studies have revealed that this axe had been sharpened from basalt and then polished by grinding it against a different rock until it was smooth. For decades now, archaeologists have been hounded by the question of who actually invented axes, and Professor O'Connor believes that this technology was developed in Australia after humans arrived and inhabited this isolated island 50,000 years ago. Though axe technology did not spread across Australia as they were only made in the tropical north, and most probably the technology was abandoned as people spread into the desert and subtropical woodlands. This discovery, however, suggests that ancient people were far more advanced than they were given credit for, and the Aboriginal ancestors probably invented and used a lot more complex technology than we are willing to accept. 3. A UFO in Broome. Believe it or not, but among the hundreds of photos of confiscated alcohol and stolen bikes on the Twitter feed of Broome police is a picture of what is widely believed to be an unidentified flying object. A video of the town shot during a nighttime storm was shared on the Facebook page of the Western Australian Police Force. The CCTV footage shows part of a parking lot, a tree, and some lightning flashes. But in the sky, one can also see a strange apparition that looks like a glowing triangle inside of a circle. This apparition appears and swiftly flies off the corner of the screen. The Broome police joked it might be a UFO, saying that they were not alone that night. But many conspiracy theorists and alien fanatics consider this an actual UFO sighting. Scott Waring, a UFO enthusiast, claimed that he didn't initially believe it was a UFO, but watching that triangle light up changed his mind and convinced him that it was definitely an alien ship. However, filming equipment experts like director J.J. Abrams say that the most likely explanation for this bizarre object appearing in the sky is the phenomenon called lens flare. Taking a closer look, you can appreciate a vehicle backing up in the lower right-hand corner, and its movements coincide with the glowing formation. Most people have accepted this theory, and even the Broome police have gone back to posting pictures of recovered stolen goods, but as with anything else, there is a chance it wasn't just lens flare. What if it was an alien expedition exploring the boring town of Broome? Guess we'll never know. Number 4. Magnetic termite mounds. Endemic to the Northern Territory of Australia, Amitermes meridionalis, also called the compass termite, builds mounds that are tall, thin, and aligned like compass needles. So far, no one really knows why or how the termite builds these. Driving south from the city of Darwin, you will see unusual structures within the trees around the road. These resemble massive grey planks of dirt standing on edge, as if they just grew out of the ground vertically. Graham Brown, a former curator of insects at the Northern Territory Museum, thinks these look like enormous tombstones. These mounds are built like a compass needle, and it has long been a mystery why this particular species of termites aligns their homes with the poles of the Earth. But there are some theories about this. Despite the misleading name, the termites aren't actually magnetic, but there is some evidence proving that these can be influenced by magnetic fields. In one experiment, scientists had buried magnets in the ground where these termites were beginning to build new mounds, but when they returned years later, the termites had abandoned these mounds. Maybe these termites could sense the Earth's magnetic field, and the magnets threw off their sense of direction. Brown explains that these mounds are like apartment buildings for termites. A single nest might be home to tens of thousands of these insects. There are little rooms and galleries with just the right amount of moisture and a favorable internal temperature. The structure is quite strategic, with only the edge of the tall and skinny mound facing the sun during the hottest hours of the day. This keeps the termites from getting overheated. Even during summer floods, the termites remain safe inside these unique homes, feeding on the stored food. Now, what confuses the biologists is the fact that only this species builds north-south pointed mounds. If this method of building has more advantages, why don't all termite species do it? Number 5. Gympie tree. This seemingly harmless bush is a member of the nettle family called Urticaceae and is named after the Australian town of Gympie. The name originates from the indigenous language of the Gubbi Gubbi people. It is native to the rainforest areas of northeastern Australia. It is mostly found in the clearings in the rainforest and along creek lanes and tracks. This poisonous plant has leaves causing one of the most painful stings in the entire world, and there is no antidote for this. Its sting is so painful and long-lasting at times that people may suffer from it for years and even commit suicide just to get rid of the pain. From afar, it looks inconspicuous and even harmless, and inviting plant with soft and fuzzy features. But a slight brush with its leaves and you will end up in unimaginable pain. The pain has been described as like being burnt with hot acid and electrocuted at the same time. Also, there's no definitive period for the pain to go away. It can take months and even years to fade away. These shrubs usually grow up to 3 meters in height, and their leaves are heart-shaped with serrated edges. The tiny hair filaments on the stems and leaves of the plant are what deliver the painful toxin to your body. The tip of each filament has a tiny bulb containing the neurotoxin. This bulb can easily break off and get lodged into human skin. To say that the pain caused by Gympie Gympie is legendary would be an understatement. A.C. Macmillan, a road surveyor from North Queensland, reported in 1866 that in an encounter with this plant, his pack horse got stung. The poor creature got mad and died within 2 hours from the pain. Ernie Ryder, an unfortunate man who ended up getting slapped in the face, arms, and chest by this menacing plant, in 1963 recalled that it felt like giant hands were trying to squash his chest. The pain was unbearable for the first few days, during which he couldn't perform basic tasks. According to Ernie, the sting persisted for 2 whole years and recurred every time he took a cold shower. In severe cases, the lymph nodes under your arms can also swell up and throb painfully. This can last 1 to 4 hours. Researchers have found out that the toxin of Gympie Gympie is incredibly heat-resistant and chemically stable. This means even the dried-out botanical samples of this plant gathering dust in a museum for a century are still dangerous and can sting you. And even today, there's no antidote or successful medication to treat the pain caused by this horrifying plant. 6. Horizontal falls. These falls are also called Garangadim by the local indigenous people, often referred to as Horas. Also, are an unusual natural phenomenon located near the coast of the Kimberley region in Australia. Sir David Attenborough has called it the most unusual natural wonder of Australia. He noted that just very few people in the world had seen this natural wonder around 15 years ago. This ocean phenomenon is the result of incredibly high tidal shifts that compress the 2 narrow breaks in the Kimberley coastline. It looks as if someone has pulled the plug on the ocean. This waterfall forms when the seawater rushes through 2 short and extremely narrow gorges only 300 meters apart from each other. Changing tide levels of up to 10 meters in height cause water buildup on one or the other side of this gap. This creates a waterfall of up to 13 feet. Boats can easily travel through this gap, and adventure enthusiasts can enjoy this unbelievable phenomenon up close. Millions of gallons of ocean water get sucked through a narrow gorge. According to researchers, during high tides, around 1 million gallons of water pours through the gap every second. These horizontal falls are also reversible. When the tide turns, the fall flows in the opposite direction. This is why it is considered one of the most dangerous currents in Australia. The seaward gap is only 70 feet in width. This waterfall is unlike any other found in the world, and therefore has attracted the attention of naturalists who can't help but be amazed by this unique waterfall. Number 7. Glowworm Tunnel. In the early 1900s, a standard gauge railway into the Wolgan Valley was constructed in order to connect the Newnes oil shale industrial development to Sydney. This railway connected with the Western Main Line at Newnes Junction, about 50 kilometers south of Newnes. The line opened in 1906 and was dismantled in the 1940s. The Glowworm Tunnel is one of the 2 abandoned tunnels on this railway. It curves almost 180 degrees and is pretty dark and eerie. In normal weather conditions, a small creek flows through this tunnel. This is an ideal habitat with just the right conditions for certain glowworms that live in the walls and roof of this tunnel. They are extremely sensitive to habitat disturbance, especially noise, light, touching, and smoke. This tunnel is around 400 meters long. You can take a mesmerizing, family-friendly stroll through this tunnel covered in glistening glowworms. Fireflies tend to light up this dark and humid old track. Explorers have to traverse a slightly bumpy path by car and walk down the abandoned railway tracks surrounded by lush forests, narrow gorges, and strange rock formations in order to reach this tunnel illuminated by glowing bluish-green light specks. Fireflies are soft-bodied insects, also called glowworms or lightning bugs. They use bioluminescence during twilight to attract mates and prey. They produce cold lights with no infrared or ultraviolet frequencies that may be yellow, green, or pale red in color. The people visiting this tunnel have to turn off their torches, put their phones on silent, and stop chatting before the stunning bright twinkling lights appear. Number 8. Cone Snails. Around 133 species of the venomous cone snail are found in the waters of the Great Barrier Reef located in Queensland. They've been called the underwater tank by National Geographic. They prey on fish, mollusks, and worms. The most poisonous species of these cones are responsible for inflicting serious injuries to humans. The geography cone, or Conus geographicus, is a large cone snail species that grows around 120 millimeters in length. These are lethal but not particularly aggressive towards humans. The cone snails are entirely marine creatures, are often found lying under stones, rubble, sand, and even tangled among weeds along the coastline from Western Australia to southern Queensland. These snails use their proboscis, a long mobile appendage having a lethal harpoon loaded with around 100 different neurotoxins. They hunt at night and paralyze their victims by stabbing them with the proboscis. Their sting initially feels like a bee sting, but soon after, things get worse. Severe pain, tingling, and numbness are felt in the stung area. In extreme cases, the person might have difficulty speaking, suffer from double vision, and can even develop respiratory paralysis. A cone snail sting requires immediate medical attention. So far, there's no antivenom available for cone snail poison, so divers and explorers should be cautious when dealing with these menacing creatures. 9. The Maree Man. Also known as Stewart's Giant, this modern hieroglyph was discovered in 1998 by Trex Smith, a charter pilot in an overflight. He was flying between Maree and Coober Pedy. It depicts an indigenous Australian man hunting with the help of a stick or boomerang. It is located on a plateau at Finnis Springs, about 60 kilometers west of the township of Maree. Mysteriously, this Maree Man hieroglyph lies just outside the 127,000 square kilometer Woomera prohibited area. The figure itself is about 2.7 kilometers tall with a perimeter of 28 kilometers. It's considered one of the largest geoglyphs in the world, only second to the Sajama lines. No one knows much about its origin. So far, no one has claimed the responsibility for its creation, and not a single eyewitness has been found. Scientists are unable to answer how someone drew this massive man, as it is not an easy job to form an outline this big on the plateau floor. The name Stewart's Giant was given to it in reference to John McDowell Stewart, an explorer. Anonymous faxes sent to the media as a press release in July 1998 brought attention to it. Soon after its discovery, the Australian government closed this site to the public after native title claimants took legal action. On 16th of July 1998, a small glass jar was found in a trough at the freshly dug site. It contained a satellite photo of the Maree Man, along with a note having a US flag on it and some references to Branch Davidians. Some believe that Bardius Goldberg, a Northern Territory artist from Alice Springs, might have created this masterpiece, as he is known for his interest in making art that was visible from outer space. However, he refused to confirm or deny this theory, so no one can say for sure who drew the Maree Man. 10. Cooper the Dinosaur. Back in 2006, paleontologists unearthed the largest new species of dinosaurs in Australia at a private farm located 1,000 kilometers west of Brisbane. The fossilized bones they discovered belonged to an Australotitan Cooperensis. It belongs to the Titanosaur family that roamed the Earth about 100 million years ago. It took researchers and scientists 15 long years to study and analyze these remains. According to an AFP report, they've named this dinosaur Cooper. In this study, it was found that Cooper was between 5 to 6.5 meters tall and measured 25 to 30 meters in length. This means it is Australia's largest dinosaur. After comparing it with the limb size of other preserved specimens, scientists have concluded that this titanosaur is estimated among the top 5 largest dinosaurs in the world. The skeleton of this dinosaur was first displayed to the public in 2007, but before that, the discovery was kept a secret. A team from Eromanga Natural History Museum and the Queensland Museum used digital technology and 3D scan models to compare Cooper's bones with its close relatives. Several other dino fossils have also been recovered from the same area in the past. Maybe this place was a dinosaur hotspot. Number 11. Lake Mungo Remains. These are 3 distinct sets of human remains scientists believe most probably Aboriginal Australian. Lake Mungo is located in New South Wales and is a dry lake situated almost 760 kilometers from Sydney. It is the prime feature of Mungo National Park and is one of the 17 lakes in the World Heritage-listed Willandra Lakes region. Sediments at this lake have been deposited for over 100,000 years. Mungo Woman, also called LM1, was discovered in 1969 and is one of the oldest known cremations in the world. Jim Bowler from the University of Melbourne found her in the Willandra Lakes region. Analysis revealed that LM1 lived around 24,700 to 19,030 years ago. The remains of LM1 are poorly preserved and after studying were repatriated to the indigenous people in 1992 and were locked away in a vault at the Mungo National Park Exhibition Center. LM3, a man, was discovered by Jim Bowler in February 1974. The shifting sand dunes expose these remains. It was found near Lake Mungo around 500 meters east of the LM1 site. This body had been laid out on its back with bent knees and hands positioned at the groin with fingers of both hands interlocked. Right next to the body, remains of a fire were also found. This ritual burial has been practiced by Aboriginal Australians and indicates that certain cultural practices have been around in Australia for a much longer time. The length of LM3's limb bones were used to estimate his height. He was around 6 feet 5 inches tall, which is unusually tall in comparison to modern Aboriginal males. Since LM3's discovery, further archaeological finds at the site have revealed that humans arrived and settled in this area around 50,000 years ago. Previously, it was believed that Aboriginals arrived from Asia and inhabited this area only 20,000 years ago. According to ANU paleoanthropologists, LM3 remains are between 28,000 to 32,000 years old. Another male named LM2 was also discovered in the same area. LM1, LM2, and LM3, the oldest human remains found on the Australian continent. Lady Mungo and Mungo Man were reburied on the 24th of May 2022. In 1989, a child skeleton believed to be from the time of the Mungo Man was also discovered, but investigations of this were blocked by 3TTG. An adult skeleton was also exposed in 2005, but rain and wind completely destroyed it by 2006. Detailed interviews pertaining to this discovery were added to the Indigenous collecting strategy of the State Library of New South Wales after the remains were reburied. Australia is no doubt one of the most majestic and mind-boggling places on Earth, but this region also remains largely unexplored. Therefore, we should expect all kinds of revolutionary discoveries from the land of kangaroos in the near future. Tell us in the comments what other secrets you think are hidden in this isolated island continent.